We're here with another episode of Before You Buy, that show where we give you some straight up gameplay and how we're feeling on the latest games releasing. Well, as usual, it's me, Jake Baldino, and today we're talking about Vampyr. This is the game from Dot Entertainment. These are the people behind Life is Strange, and more closely here, Remember Me. Now, thankfully, I think this game is way stronger than their previous entries, man. I've been playing it for a while since I got my hands on it a bit early, and I'll say straight up, I really like Vampyr. I'm pretty sure that's how you say it, but I really keep wanting to pronounce it Vampyr, so if I do say that, I apologize. But single-player game enthusiasts should take note here. This game does some really interesting and ambitious things to shake up what otherwise would have been a more generic vampire killing game. It's no Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, but I think this might end up in my list of favorite vampire games for sure. Now, in this game, you assume the role of Dr. Jonathan Reed. Fresh from coming back as a field medic from the front lines of World War I, he returns to this London being ravaged by the Spanish flu. The only thing is, he wakes up in a mass grave in a gutter, suddenly craving blood. So, he's a vampire. Here's his big paradox. He's this vampire who must, of course, satisfy his thirst for blood, but he's also a famous doctor and surgeon pioneering this new research in phlebotomy, meaning he literally specializes in blood. Very quickly, his search for answers leads him to the doorstep of a downtrodden hospital struggling to keep citizens alive, and thus the main hook of the game begins. It's your job, and the game incentivizes you to take care of the citizens of this flu-ridden London, but you also want to progress and grow stronger as a vampire and get your answers. This is where the game is definitely the most surprising. Now, there is combat. I think it's definitely the weakest element. I'll get to that in a bit. But a large portion of the game is exploring London and talking to folks. It's a lot of talking, like learning all about the citizens, completing side quests, helping some folks, screwing over others, all to progress in the name of Reed's quest for answers, while also, if you choose to do so, being a good doctor and following the oath you took. So the game doles out experience points for doing quests and fighting enemies and discovering stuff, but you get the biggest jumps in experience if you munch on an NPC. You have to tend to these NPCs, taking care of them with medicine or learning about their life or routines through conversation or side quests. Then the more maxed out they are, the more XP you get if you kill them off. The game just kind of gates you from instantly killing off everyone by having a mesmerized level you need to increase in order to hypnotize the people and lure them into a corner while no one is watching so you can feed. Now, it sounds a little complicated, but it's really just the main system of the game. The caveats here are that a person may be more significant than you expect, and if their death is noticed, that they're not around, maybe they have like a family or friends, the stability of the map region will decrease. And if it decreases too much, the environment becomes more hostile and enemy characters will kill off NPCs and you'll lose out on potential characters and side quests and valuable XP. Now, you spend this XP making your character stronger, from health, endurance, and stamina to passive stuff to active stuff like offensive and defensive capabilities. There's a good amount to progress through, thankfully, in the skill trees, meaning you gotta work for this stuff. There's also crafting and upgrading weapons, giving yourself healing items, and most importantly, you craft medicine for the citizens. Now, since it has that direct connection, the crafting doesn't feel too tacked on, thankfully, which is what I was worried about. Now, with making these blood-sucking decisions and choices, and this is dependent on the type of player you are, but I personally just got really invested into the little stories and characters and chose very carefully who I fed upon and who I left alive. A man working to make a neighborhood better for everyone, I left him. A random panhandler or homeless guy under a bridge, maybe less people would miss him and it would affect my rating a little bit less. Yeah, I get less XP than munching on a more main character, but XP is still XP. This is where the game is its most fun. It's a bit long-winded at times with dialogue, but it managed to keep me really interested. And I've heard some folks say that the combat isn't that big of a deal, and I've already heard of people getting through the game without feeding on a single citizen, and that's fine if you're a technical player who just wants to efficiently win. But me personally, I had the most fun with the game choosing every citizen I spare carefully. But I'm the opposite. I felt very incentivized and very tempted to occasionally, suck some blood of some citizens. I had the most fun with the game choosing every citizen I spare carefully and overall just kind of being a goodish vampire man, trying to do the right thing as much as possible, but also getting some XP so I can at the very least unlock and try all of the powers and the abilities, because you have to. And that's where the game succeeds, keeping you in a morally gray area and making the decisions tied directly really into the gameplay. Vampyr specializes in often going above just doing a good or a bad thing, like in something like BioShock. Here it's directly tied in. And it's a semi-open world with some sectioned off interiors and underground locations, and the world feels pretty large and lived in. You get all walks of London life here from the different districts, from fancy rich folks in their mansions to the dirty, dilapidated, disease-ridden alleys of Whitechapel. And the areas are pretty fun to explore because certain areas have enemies that will absolutely crush you if you suck or you're underleveled. And there are twisty-turny paths where you can unlock doors and regain easier access to previous areas. There's enough here to keep you busy in the environment, especially like I mentioned earlier, people to talk to, but also the enemies to fight. There are more monsterish vampires of various sizes, as well as just different vampire hunters out there with guns and swords and stuff, and combat is, like I said, fine. A friend of mine didn't find it as challenging as I did, but I enjoyed it, and I got my butt kicked a lot. Once you get all of the powers and switch between weapon sets, there's a really good flow of the occasional parry with a heavy weapon, dashing and dodging, stunning enemies with a secondary gun or a stake so you can bite them and then fill up your blood meter and then unleash a special attack. Like I said, it's all fine. I can't quite put my finger on it, but it just feels slightly off. I don't hate it, but I'm just not crazy about it. I think it's just maybe the way it controls. The same goes for the character movement in general. Like, I would have preferred walk being the default with a run button on the trigger just to hold, but instead you whip around a little too fast and floaty in the environment. I did play the game on PC, and with all the settings up, I think it looks pretty great. I only encountered 2 small, like weird T-pose glitches here and there. I've seen other complaints that I just didn't experience anything really troubling. And I'll say, at times, up close with some of the characters, the game's limited budget definitely shows, but environments and lighting look great. The game is a great exercise in lighting, mood, and general atmosphere thanks to the visuals and some good music. Managing and preying on citizens is fun for RPG progression, and the environment and atmosphere is unique compared to what else is out there right now, and the story and main character will keep you fairly interested. Honestly, I'd say go for it. People are always talking about the death of single-player games, blah, blah, blah. I don't know what the future holds, but we got a pretty decent single-player adventure right here. But of course, that is just me, and that's how a Before You Buy works. You should know by now. I give you some pros, some cons, some personal opinion, so now I definitely want to hear yours down in the comments. People have been anticipating this game for a while. I want to know if you have played it, or maybe you're watching it online, if it lives up to your expectations. Are you a fan of vampire games? Are you just kind of like hoping for a Blood Omen 2 like I was? I want to hear what you guys think, so let's talk down in the comments, but also consider hopping over to our Discord, discord.gg/gameranks. It's linked in the description below. There's a bunch of channels over there. You can find like-minded individuals like us who just want to talk about games and stuff. But whether you hit me up there, the comments, or social media at Jake Baldino, let's talk about Vampyr. I want to hear what you guys think, and if you did enjoy this video and found it kind of helpful, consider clicking the like button because that does help us out, and we do really appreciate it. And if you're new, you should subscribe because we put out stuff like this all the time. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.